Hello, everyone. Welcome to a live stream. We're going to talk when will this thing end? I think a lot of people keep talking about it, and I think we need to be honest with ourselves. So, if you're new to this video, we're going to do shorter videos, but they will be live with Q&A at the end. So, if you've got questions, I will answer them at some point. However, we do need to talk about the obvious in the room is when will this bull market end? There's a lot of randomness. I think there's a lot of panic in the air. I think there's a lot of people trying to figure out when will it end and crazy price targets going around still. And XRP, for example, is doing some big moves. Obviously, Bitcoin's back towards 100k levels. And I do think there's a lot of element around fear, doubt, strategic reserve, money go up, money printer. When will it end? And I think it's important to note where we are in the stage. So let's talk about it in a little bit more detail. So obviously on the screen, hello everyone, we can see obviously coin market cap. Simple enough. But we need to talk about obviously the past. Historical returns of Q1 naturally is a little bit iffy for January, which is fine. Going into February, March could be very interesting. Now, I said it before, if we do repeat last year, it'll be very, very interesting to see where we go. And my base case would be, and you've seen my price targets before with Bitcoin, not that crazy, but when you put into context from $15,000 to now, it's done it that would have done over a 10x, which I think for some people is hard to compute. So in terms of exit plans, we've got to try and think, well, what is the best thing? And in my opinion, it's return of investment. If you bought the lows, if you've made enough money, it doesn't really matter. Like there's too many people going for exact dates. Now you got to look at time frames, you got to look at mania stages. You don't want to sell your bag too early. But ultimately, if you're in a position where you've made a lot of money, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, let's go for it. It probably hasn't. For some people, I don't think it's kind of got to that point where you've been in early enough. And I mentioned it in one of my last live streams where if you started in this market 6 months ago, you're probably pretty unhappy with some of the performance of the assets. But ultimately, if you started 5 years ago, it's going to change that whole perspective. So realistically, where are we? Well, first thing, we've talked about this a lot. We are going into this sort of mania stage where it will start. The question is, as the title suggests, when does it end? What if Bitcoin really flies up to 200, 250k? For me, I would find that very hard not to remove my positions in a lot of things personally, right? Especially if runes do well, especially if my Bitcoin back does well, or if my altcoins, especially that are related to Bitcoin, that might well do well. Altcoins, though, it's a different matter. And we talk about altcoins a lot and quite a lot of it bearish. This is the same chart, but Ethereum, realistically. Ethereum has been awful. And I know there's Ethereum holders listening to this, but ultimately we need Ethereum to start doing something. And it feels like it's totally off track, really. It's on a wrong train line here. When you compare it to obviously the Bitcoin one for obvious reasons, right? So when we talk about that, it could get very interesting. But let me know in the comments or on the chat feed, whatever, where do you think Bitcoin would physically top out? Because I've obviously got my numbers in my head, and I've obviously heard other numbers as well. And we're going to go through some other price predictions based off some models and stuff like that, which has actually been pretty correct in the past. But I think it's interesting to know, and we'll talk about where I think key dates are where we need to be very, very mindful. And obviously, that summertime period could be very, very interesting. So the first one is obviously the Pi cycle top. This is not perfect, but ultimately this is currently on projection. This is on projections only to cross over around that December period. So that is one date to mark off, Q4 of 2025, so to speak, right? Previous cycle, in 2017, 2018, we kind of topped off in December. Last cycle, we had a big run in May and we corrected fully in the November time and we kind of stopped there. Obviously, this cycle, we could be looking at around that October, November, December time, where it is obviously Q4. But that is one bit of evidence, so to speak, at the minute. But that could change. If Bitcoin hurdles much faster and gives us a much bigger cycle top much earlier than we anticipate, you may well find a lot of people may well sell, or greedy people get greedy, leverage happens, and people cascade into certain things, and ultimately it blows over in that situation. That's an obvious factor. The other one that is interesting is called the top cap. Now, never really looked at this before, but you can see in terms of the past and past data, quite a lot of times it's touched it, apart from the previous cycle. Now, again, if we go into it, this indicator uses normal input. It's basically an average cap that is calculated based on multiplied by 35. Basically, that's simply it. And as much as the history, the prices of Bitcoin and major cycles where price had gone parabolic due to the market euphoria and FOMO, it failed to do so in 2021, therefore rounded a top cycle, not a parabolic top. So that's kind of where we are with this. But the fact that it's actually hit those levels a couple of times is very interesting. Obviously, it missed once. In terms of price data of where this is expecting to be, so if we're looking at like random numbers, over the course of the year, it's been trickling up, and roughly it's around $452,000, which is where the top cap is. Oof. If that hits that number, you get the idea, right? And I've been talking to my Patreon about it in terms of exit plans, and I think the exit plan is stupidly important for a lot of people, and we'll talk about it in certain ways. And obviously, we've looked at a date and obviously a number where people could be anticipating. That's only one factor of it. If I go onto here, though, Bitcoin live price on here, it's going to give us a lot more different things. It's going to show us realistically top cap, delta top, and terminal price. Though those are at the minute where it leads to be. Obviously, the cycle lows down here. Now, I would be in between here versus here. But where would that date come in? Well, that's where I think it gets interesting because, as I say, right, if we look at history, so to speak, right, and let me know in the comments, whatever. If you're watching this on replay, let me know as well. Where would you like it to be? So, obviously, the previous cycle from like a breakout, so to speak, right? Now, this is kind of where it gets a bit wishy washy because depends on where you class the breakout, because obviously we had the COVID crash, so it kind of does inflate the numbers a little bit. But if you look at the past 600 odd days of a cycle, especially on the total market cap, so to speak, if you're looking at breakouts, we're looking at kind of the summer period where it could be very, very interesting. Now we know selling may go away and all that kind of stuff. It's a big, massive factor in life. We've also got to look at other situations. So with Bitcoin, for example, we have got to look at the fact of the halving, 1 year from halving will be in April. We've also got to look at Donald Trump's inauguration, which is in a couple of days' time. So if I was to be a guessing person, the first real checkpoint I want to get to would be 1 year from halving. Statistically, 1 year from halving, the Bitcoin price is usually a lot higher. That's already in evidence. We've already seen that. That's already happened. But it could be much higher. It could be over the six-figure figures by quite a way, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then that will have a bit of a remit of where we go. Because what if we do cool down into that summer period and then it gets very, very interesting to see where it goes? Because personally, I think a lot of people might be, getting a little bit upset if we do correct in that summer period. So this is kind of where I am in terms of my price data. I think the 2618 and the 3618 could be very interesting based off history. Basically, previous history we topped out here. Previous history we've also topped out here. Diminishing returns with Bitcoin. Now, I know some people will disagree, but I don't think we're going to hit that 500 to $1 million level this cycle. I just don't. My personal opinion, I think from 15,000 to there would sound absolutely barbaric. And I think that's where people get a little bit upset because it's all due to market timing. When did you invest? Why did you invest in that asset? What are you doing, sort of thing, right? Because someone buying at 100K, wishing it goes to 300K to make a 2x or whatever, or even a little bit less than that, you're probably going to be disappointed. However, people buying at the lows or even before then, back in the early days, you are looking at your Bitcoin price being so much higher. It's going to have that real interesting effect of where people exit. So that's why I say to people, when you do an exit plan, and as much as like on my Patreon, for example, I talk about exit plans, I don't like to give you specific because I think people get clouded by that because everyone's different. People have different risk, different people have different goals, and more importantly, people have different amounts of playing with. So it becomes a very interesting one. So when we look at, I'll give you a real life example here. XRP is doing a perfect thing here. So when we look at XRP, obviously price cycle, not great. Where we are today, much better in USD prices. Obviously that will reflect nicely on those BTC pairs. But the reality is here, when we're looking at this, how high does it go? And this is where it gets interesting. We've obviously broken this 618 level. Where can we go? Well, $4. $6, $8. Realistically, I wouldn't want to bet now to buy XRP for it to go up. I think it'd be far too hard to do so. But people who bought down here will be laughing right now. I know you are. It's great. It's great to see that this has actually done something for once. But the reality is, there's going to be people that will wish it would go higher. And then you need to talk about, well, when does it end? Because when you start seeing the retail hype come into things and pushing it even higher, you need to make that judgment call. I'm going to get out of this because I don't want to get myself blown up. I don't want to get round tripped, whatever it may be. And that's where I think people lose massively in the crypto market because they're expecting to go much higher, mainly because one, they're in the hype, or the entrance into the market was pretty crap. Usually that latter part is the reality here. I know a lot of people like that. So when we talk about endings, this, as I say, this 1 year period, don't specifically think about obvious timeframes because it doesn't happen, right? So when we talk about the past with me, I sold on this run up by pure chance. I did. I was unlucky here. I had some stables. I bought a bit more at the lows on altcoins and I got out luckily at a good point. But with Bitcoin, I sold a lot of my bags in and around. You've probably seen the tweets that I often dig out. But the reason why I sold wasn't because I thought it was a top. I just thought it was a second chance of getting back up here because I thought I lost in this summer period. I thought that was it. So the rapid rise and the big drop off was basically PTSD from the prior cycle because we went from, nothing to 20k and then zip right the way back down to 3k. That could have easily continued going much lower. Obviously, second guess, luckily we got out and actually it worked out pretty well. But it was all based off feeling and how much I made. I was lucky enough to buy the dip here, and I was very, very fortunate that I did. And obviously, my whole portfolio was much higher at this point. I thought, why would I want to not sell this? I looked at my portfolio and going, that's me, set up for future cycles multiple, multiple, multiple times. But people won't see it like that if you're a new investor. So you need to be mindful. So for me, going on to this cycle, I'm even twitchy now. I'll be honest. I am. I'm twitchy now looking at whenever we get a red day, it's kind of like, oh, bloody hell, that's not good. So this consolidation where that slough is, which is rather fitting, so to speak, we've got to look and we've got to try and bounce off this level to go much higher. Donald Trump's inauguration, massive, as I've alluded to it, right? Going into April, that 1 year halving is going to be huge as well. So it'll be interesting to see where it go. But for me, I think I am going to be committing to the fact that, well, I will be taking some money off the table in and around these levels because I think it's hard not to. So let me know what your thoughts are. I think the summer will be key, personally. Into that Q3, Q4 could be very interesting, but it depends on where the price is. If we shoot to the moon very, very quickly, it could get very volatile. And people may well remove some positions, and there's nothing wrong with taking profit and taking something for the future. But it depends on how much you leave in just in case, a little bit of an edge. Because what if, as I say, right, Bitcoin shoots up and then does a slow consolidation down and altcoins run? Might happen, might not, who knows, we'll see. But ultimately, this dominance is not going to really, create many headlines if it only goes down by 4 or 5%. Right now, it's nothing alarming, realistically. Yes, what if we go down to like 40%? Again, another factor is what about if we are looking at like a 45% Bitcoin dominance? Is that enough for you to go, you know what, I should really be selling my assets because I think it's not going to go any lower? There's so many factors at play here that you're going to look at and think data-wise, crazy. But you all know what's going to happen, right? Altcoins will run. Oh, Bitcoin dominance is going to go down to 30% or whatever. And then all of a sudden it doesn't. And then you get trapped. And then it becomes it becomes a very, 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 very big problem. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, for me, it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to look at some of these questions. If you've not yet done so, please like the video. Also, links below if you think anything's well, not links below. Sorry, comment below what you think. Certainly if you're watching the replay. But yeah, let's have a little look at some of these questions because there's some interesting ones here. So 20 US states applying for BTC reserve next month. That is insane. It is insane, but we don't know what's going to happen. Unprecedented, isn't it? How many of these states are going to buy pretty heavy? We don't know. We realistically don't know. And we've got to remember, Now, this is obviously out of left field a little bit, but when the futures market went live in 2017, we thought it was going to go much higher than 20K, didn't it? It was the actual top. We don't want the strategic reserve to be the top, and that would be brutal. Let's be honest with that, because if that then becomes utterly brutal, it's a problem, a big problem. So we'll see how that goes. It hasn't really started yet. I agree. I think the Bitcoin move is edging. It kind of reminds me of the prior cycle when it was at like 20K, and it kind of like shot from there. This cycle, obviously, we went much higher, much faster. So stuff around that could be very, very interesting. Um, but yeah, it could really fly from here. How will Trump be sworn in impact the market? I reckon it'll be usual, buy the room and sell the event. It might well be that, and I don't hold that opinion, you know, myself in a I get, well, I do and I don't. I remember the ETFs last year. This time last year, actually, it was the day of the ETFs, I think. And what happened was it actually sold off a little bit, nothing crazy. And then it kind of bounced pretty significantly. We may well find that with this, it might not be a horrendous dump, but it may well just wobble the market a little bit of uncertainty. Then all of a sudden, we continue making our merry way up. Because when we look at the, bear with me, when we look at the structure side of it with the market, when we look at, say, Bitcoin, right? It weirdly, right? I'll remove the sloth now. It feels quite poised for a move, if that makes sense. Because like, we look at this, right? We've had this like horrible downtrend. We've put this new low. We're currently here. If we break and take this top out and we've changed the character of the market, it's poised for another move higher. But that's all if buts, maybes, and depends on the announcements, obviously, more importantly, because there's so many factors at play here, and it's like that underlying thing. What good news is good sometimes, but sometimes bad news is also good. It's like one of those thinking, well, what happens next? At the end of the day, we caught a massive bid here. We might catch more bids a little bit down here in the next one because I think there might well be a little bit of FOMO, and that little bit of FOMO may well catch people out. And we go higher than we think. Boom, off we go. Boom. Shoot to the moon. Bull market for Bitcoin ends in September, which is 18 months after the halving. Yeah. I think the general consensus for a lot of people seems to be around that end of summer slash going into the start of Q4. But it depends. What if, as I say, what if we get that scenario where Bitcoin flies, like really flies, slow consolidation into an altcoin boom, and it just catches people out, and like late longs will get punished eventually, and the retail FOMO come back finally. Then all of a sudden it's just like a couple of weeks and boom, off we go. That has happened a few times. That's the worst part about this. That's the thing as well. We don't know. The markets will do what the market wants to do at the end of the day. That's the reality of it. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. I originally thought 130, 150. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's kind of where I've kind of been for a while. 150 to 200 at least. I'll be very disappointed if we don't get to 150. But hey, when we're buying altcoins and stuff and we get some good discounts, will they actually run? Well, that would be another question. Bitcoin tops out 17, 18 months after halving. So yeah, that's another one. Yeah, historic data, September, October will be the top. Imagine if it is just that and it's just so simple. Sometimes it's a bit too easy though, isn't it? Hoping for 150k plus. Thoughts on DeFi resurgence? Not sure yet, personally. I think Aave would be an interesting one for a lot of people to jump into, but we'll see. We'll see where things go with Aave, especially with regulation, especially in certain countries now. It's a bit harder nowadays. Can I make the chart bigger? No. No. Quite happy with my chart, thank you. Just get a bigger screen. That's a better idea, isn't it? When ETH hits all-time high, I'm out. I mean, Ethereum's an interesting one. So bear with me, if I go into Ethereum BTC, right, this is just, oh man, when like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Ethereum lover, right? You all know that, but I'm actually a little bit concerned, if I'm going to be honest, because I think that is just a bit dicey. And I often think, well, why is it not doing so well? Like, obviously, Solana has had a bit of a rundown, but it's also doing really well today. But realistically, even when we talk about, like, obviously this little rundown here, or even on the 3-day time frame, when we're looking at this, it created a little low here and was caught a bid. It might well have been the bottom potentially here. But this looks chalk and cheese between the Ethereum chart and the Solana chart. Why has that happened? We need to try and process that. And that's the thing, like, when you think about crypto and altcoins, you think about Ethereum, more importantly, you do. So that needs to move. When this bottoms and we start going up, we might actually see altcoins finally get something. Finally. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes, because I think it's caught a lot of people off, in my opinion, anyways. But we'll see how we'll see how things go. Only waiting for my alts to pop one more time. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are waiting for their altcoins to really pop off, and like catch a little bit of a bid in the BTC pairs. And even if they like go up 100, 200%, they might just be like converting into Bitcoin for Bitcoin to then do that big move and then get some USD and then hopefully sell into something and then just sit out for a bit and just chill. It just depends on so much. Like, there's so many things at play where we need I think we need Bitcoin to just chill out and relax, but I don't think it's going to. I just think it's just going to be a pain in the ass. It seems to be. It was good last year. This time last year, it was really good. It was very settled. It didn't do anything. And then obviously the ETFs came out, and then it had that consolidation phase. And then all of a sudden, altcoins blew, didn't they? But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we'll see. If you're not yet done so, guys, please like the video. I need to try and get these live streams more views. Obviously, different tactic at the minute for me. But I'm not going to be going live as long, if that makes sense, in terms of duration. I'm going to be keeping them quite short, probably about half an hour. So I'll probably just answer questions and vanish, so to speak, so people can catch the replay. Finally managed to catch a live stream. Slightly off topic, but do you have a sim racing rig by any chance? Yeah, it's right there. So if you look, hold on, I'll kind of show you. Don't know if you can see that, but there is a racing rig over there. I don't know how much you would have saw that, but yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's full on racing rig, kind of, somewhat. But yeah, there's a racing seat over there. Someone was like, "What's that over there? It looks like someone randomly in a burqa." It's not. It's a racing seat. It's you just probably can't see it on certain visuals. Are you entertaining a Q1 top at all? Yes, I am. If yes or no, right? What if the question is, what if, say, we do like a ridiculous move, let's say 250k dollar Bitcoin move, which actually, well, I say in retrospect, it is quite a big move. So say from today's prices, right, and we're going to go say 200k, give or take, bear with me. Let me just shoot this to the moon. Now, a 100% move, obviously it's 100% move. So let's just say we go to this extension level here. Not a bad move. But the reality is here, and this is the thing, if we repeat some of this kind of move, we're not that far away from it, and it might well get to that point. But my hopeful hypothetical element is we do enough of a move and then we consolidate finally. And history does tell us that Bitcoin likes to consolidate eventually. History tells us as well Bitcoin can be quite boring. Like this, be a bit boring. That was boring, but not for the right reasons. This is kind of a bit, that's just chop heaven. It's ridiculous. So we'll see where it goes. But my thing might be, right? This is where this could be the ultimate pain. And this is a mini theory that I've got. I don't think this will play out though. Bitcoin moons, everyone gets super excited. Bitcoin does a slow consolidation. Bitcoin obviously is dropping in that period. And then altcoins run, but no one notices because Bitcoin's gone down and the altcoins have not really pumped as much as you think. That's where I think it'll hurt, but I don't think that'll happen. I think, yeah, the Bitcoin season's very, very big right now. But for me, this level here, like, let's be honest, right? People be like, oh, it's not enough gains. But that is a lot of gains for an asset over a period of time. If we're thinking about that over a potential cycle, that is big. When you go back in time, I know, sorry, let's go back and observe and kind of look at this. If we're talking about, let's just talk about the low. Now, in terms of diminishing returns, there's always going to be that factor at play here. There's always going to be an element of diminishing return. That's only from an area that I think. But even if I go a little bit higher than that, oh God, if we go up to like, say, 250k, we're not that far away from really getting towards that prior cycle, which I know it sounds barbaric and it does look a bit crazy. At the end of the day, people will try and get very, very greedy and get very upset. But like me, I've been through multiple cycles. I've been building. For me, that is more than enough when I look at my portfolio. But it depends on what everything else does as well. If altcoins don't do very well, I think people will be very, very sour and very, very pissed off. But that's that side of it. And we could be very, very interesting with that side of it. I've fallen victim of the sim racing bug. I've not looked much into the Assetto Corsa, the new one. It looks good though. Graphically, it looks amazing. But we'll see how it goes. It did need a bit of a refresh, to be fair, the Assetto Corsa. But yeah, sim racing is definitely the way to go. I've got all kinds of got a home gym now, got a sim racing rig. I'm set for life now. It's pretty damn awesome, realistically. But yeah, in terms of the final conclusion of this video or this live stream, so to speak, my personal belief is I think people will get caught out. I do. I think many people get caught out in the cycle in terms of what Bitcoin does. What we've found over the course of this period, certainly since like what I've just put in the chat, which was like roughly from November 2022, Bitcoin has been pretty much up only for the most part. A bit of sideways here and there, a little bit of corrective wave, but it's been pretty much up only. If that is going to play out and we're going to just continue going higher up until whatever quarter that we feel that it's ready to do, the ultimate question is how many altcoins will go with it, or what if Bitcoin doesn't consolidate and altcoins just get punished? I think there's a lot of people on the sidelines with altcoins. I think there's a lot of people, like, obviously look at YouTube, right? Some YouTube channels have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they've hardly get any views realistically, right? When you think of the view ratio, those people who were watching videos years ago from altcoins will probably return when the altcoins get to a certain price. The thing is, those BTC pairs are that low. It's not happened, and that's where we find that big old problem. We're not having that retail follow through, so to speak, and it kind of hurts. So in terms of selling, you need to look at your return of investment, because if you don't think about your return on investment, what you're waiting for, realistically, that's the whole thing. And I think we will get the same situation where people will be pumping about like articles and videos and stuff about certain things. XRP, for example, is like going to like a gazillion dollars now, probably on some articles. You just don't know what's going to happen. So we need to be very, very mindful of that. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, just keep it simple. Is there any rhythm or reason, or is it rhyme? Rhythm, yeah, rhyme or reason why XRP is? I think with XRP, the massive factor on it was the regulation side, was that whole element where it kind of opened up the world a little bit, and the shackles are off, and it's doing a big move. It's not an amazing move, but I think with XRP being so down in the BTC pair, it kind of shows. So if every single asset does that, you're going to notice your altcoins do well. But that's only one. And still, when you look at XRP, it's still down quite a lot over 3 years versus Bitcoin, which is mad when you think about it. But because Bitcoin's so high at 100K now, it's going to reflect very nicely in USD prices. So that's why I said in one of my videos not too long ago about XRP, it's probably going to go to $8 to $10 if it hits certain levels on the BTC pair, and also Bitcoin returns to, say, well, goes even higher, say $150,000. People were like, what, really? Well, yeah, that's a maths. It's the same with every other asset. They're down like, well, for some of them, they're down like 80% in the BTC pair over the course of the last 3 years. If they make some of that back, it's going to really reflect very, very big on the price, especially if you buy them. So yeah, we'll see how things go, so to speak. Anyways, I'm going to shoot. Appreciate people turning off. Thought a little half an hour live stream would be a bit different today, talking about when will the market end. And I think ultimately for me, my personal opinion, and obviously everyone's got an opinion, don't wait for the timing. Wait for how much money you've made. Because if you've made a lot of money in that time period, have no issues with taking a little bit off the table and reward yourself. Because I think people don't. And that's where